Hello, people. I am here today with a new person to uh, Adrian Martinez, and he has a podcast called Invest in Yourself, and he does a lot of mob content. And we're going to talk about that. He has a very interesting show. And Adrian, how you doing?
Good, Lee. Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
So, you're how old are you, if I may ask?
22.
So you're a young guy, and how long you really been interested in this mob stuff?
Hmm, Probably since last year. I mean, that's when it all came when I first did an interview with Bobby Luisi. That was one of my first ones, and I was like, "Holy shit!" There's guys out here that were actually gangsters and stuff, and in that life, And I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." You know what I mean? So then I just kind of got drawn into it, and then Larry Mazza came, and I did an interview with him, and I did it with Colby Roy. I don't know if you ever seen him, but he doesn't do YouTube no more. But me and him did that together, and it just kind of kept going and going and going. But yeah,
And so, did you ever pay any of these guys, or it's always been on their own, basically?
usually on their own, they got something to promote, but yeah, there's been a few that I've paid, but I'm at the point, like I said, right now where I'm not going to do that right now because it's not a you don't get a return on your investment, so
No, not yet. No.
no. I mean, if you're bigger like Vlad or whoever else does it, the interviews and stuff.
And the big ones, the guys will go on just so they're on it, because that's good for them. Like Vlad don't pay them. They go on Vlad, but Vlad gives you popularity.
Oh God, millions and millions
Yeah.
of views. So that's the
Well,
difference.
we're going to talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Okay. You're a young guy, but I was going through your show, and you interview a lot of very controversial guys. There's no doubt about that. Guys who are known to have, let me pull up you, to have, let's say, given evidence, state evidence, put people in prison.
Right.
I'll give you an example. You have Hootie Russo,
Hmm.
Anthony Russo, Hootie. Now, I've interviewed him in the very beginning of my show. The reality is he gets pretty decent numbers. And I seen that you interviewed him. Uh, have you ever given any consideration to not doing these because a guy is an informant, or did you pretty much say you're just going to interview whoever you want?
When I first started doing the mafia interviews, I kind of thought, it was going to be, just guys that never really, ratted or whatever. I was kind of going to, I don't know why, but that was kind of my, the mentality at the beginning, and but then I was just like, I don't know. I didn't really, at a certain point, I was just like, well, let me just try it out. Let me hear their stories. I just kind of thought about it. I'm like, I'm just a civilian. I'm not a gangster. You know what I mean? I've never claimed to be in that life or anything gangster related. So I'm just,
You're just
I just
doing
kind
your
of thought
show.
about it. What's that?
Yeah, and that's the way you got to do it. You just got to say right off the bat, this is the mistake I made. I went back and forth on it until I just said I'm not going to interview informants anymore. But it's I can understand where you're coming from. Now you're a younger guy. You're 22 years old. So how you look at the world and how I look at the world are two different things. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. We come from two different
Yeah.
generations without a doubt. But you did an interesting video, and it had Larry Mazza in it with the Matteo, and
Mhm.
two different guys. One guy did not rat, the other guy did. What did you think of that interview?
Well, I thought it was a really good segment. When it all went down, Frank Di Matteo, I don't know how to actually say it, but
Don't feel
he
bad. I butcher these names.
he kind of just we finished doing a show, because I've had him on a few times, and I said, well, is there any guys that you kind of be interested in doing a show with that were informants? Because there's some mob guys that never were rats, or if that's what you're gonna call them or whatever. I don't really say it, but that's what they'll say. I'll never do a show with a rat. So I think I just kind of brought it up to him. I mean, are you against this? And he's like, not really. And I was like, well, let me come up with a list of, people that were government informants and, see what we can do. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to, see who, he's like, he kind of labeled it as a debate. And I was like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Let me come up with a list. And I came up with a list and
Oh, DiMatteo said that to you?
yeah, yeah. And he said, come up with a list and we'll see which ones, I'll like. And he picked Larry Mazza and, So I reached out to Larry, and Larry's like, yeah, let's do it, and I just let him know from the jump, I wasn't going to bash either one of them. It wasn't meant for that, but it's done pretty good, and it's still doing pretty good. It's at about, I think, almost 10,000 views now. So I figured it'd do pretty good.
Have you ever name out of all these guys you've interviewed,
Mhm.
who was the one you got the most pushback
Either, I don't know. I get comments every day from like about my Danny Trio interview. Your
on?
partner,
Who? Who?
Danny Trio, your ex
I'm
partner on
joking.
your show.
I'm joking. Yes.
No,
Danny Trio.
you said, yeah. No, I mean, I really don't know. What
That
it
was your
all is.
largest. That was actually your most watched video ever, wasn't it?
Yeah, that one is, and it done really good. And I really don't know the whole thing. And I was gonna kind of have him come back on my show and stuff again, to talk about it. But I never happened. You know what I mean? I really don't know this whole situation. But when I had him on, that interview was recorded from like 3 or 4 months before. And I never dropped it. And then I did, and then it did excellent. It just kept going up and up. And I asked. I think I said, would you share it or whatever, or kind of promote it on your show. I didn't know that you and him weren't like a show together anymore. So
Right.
after that, he kind of just said, no, not right. We're not doing a show no more or whatever, and I just left it at that. So I don't know if you want to kind of expand on it, and let me know what kind of.
Well, Danny Trio was my partner, and some things came out where it was pretty evident that he wasn't telling the truth, and I learned a valuable lesson there. You have to, if you're going to have a partner, if you're going to have somebody with you, you got to vet them. As a person, Danny Trio is a good guy. He good family man. He works hard, but as a mob guy, there's a lot of things to bring into question. And I noticed that when you did your interview with him, I read underneath a lot of remarks. Now I've gotten attacked brutally because of this whole thing.
Mhm.
And I kind of get left hanging. He just kind of walked away, never even said goodbye.
Oh, really?
So I was just left there, and I never really went after him because there's something likable about him. And the reality is this: Danny Trio was responsible for helping me build my show.
Yeah.
But he was also very loud and aggressive. And when you're loud and aggressive, people are going to come at you and try to find out what they can about you. And that's what seems to have happened with Danny Trio. So now you're saying that you did this 4 months before you even dropped it.
Probably 3 or 4.
Okay, that explains a lot, because I thought what happened is Danny came on and was telling you stuff after it got found out it was inaccurate, but that's not the case. He kept this same story up.
Oh, so what, I suppose, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of disbanded the show, or when did it come to an end? And like, did you bring up these things to him?
One night, Danny wrote on his Facebook page, "I will no longer be doing shows with Lee Cole."
Oh,
Didn't call me. Nothing.
damn. So you're kind of surprised too.
Oh, it surprised me because I stood out there. No matter what was coming at us, I stood out there because I considered Danny my friend. And it's as time goes on, it leaves you a little bitter taste in your mouth, not because of the stories that were made up, but because of the fact that he just ignored me like it would disappear. Instead of talking to me and saying, "Look, I'm moving on." He didn't do that. He just went on to. It was kind of like embarrassing. He kind of embarrassed me on Facebook. So the only thing I can understand then why you did not research him. You didn't know, because I've been reading your remarks underneath it. Oh my God, you got brutalized on that one.
Yeah, and which I didn't even really know. I really don't know I still don't know, what the whole deal was, you know what I mean? And I really, I guess, for me, when I'm doing shows and stuff, I listen to the people and, take it for what it is. If they're telling the truth, they're telling it. I'm just kind of here to, report the story, you know what I mean? And if people can, comment and say whatever they want, I mean, it's not, I wasn't there. I wasn't there to, be there and listen to them, or shit, I'm only 22 years old. These guys are like almost 3 times my age, so
Yeah, they are.
I
Yeah.
don't know what's true or not, so I just kind
You're a
of
22-year-old from
Nebraska.
farm. Yeah, you're
So, in the middle
I'm
of
from
the
Texas. I'm in cattle land,
right,
but I grew up in New York. I spent a majority of my time in New York City, so that's where I'm from.
right.
Uh, but he was good at saying what he did, and that's that. But so, out of all these guys that you've interviewed, have you become friends with any of them, or some that you like better than others?
Well, like I said, I've done quite a few shows with, Frank, multiple. There's another guy I did quite a few shows with, Derek Galanis. He was Cherry Hill Gambino associate is what he got marked down for when he went to prison. So, he was associated with him a little bit, but, I've done multiple shows with him. Larry Mazza as well. We've done probably like 5 or 6, so, yeah, like,
Which one? Who can you call out of them, and they'll pick up the phone and talk to you?
um, probably all three of them, you know what I mean? But I don't think I'll, unless I, have something to say to them, I'll call them, but, just to, bullshit or whatever. I don't think, I don't know.
When did you start reading and learning on the history of the mob?
Last year, that's when I just got involved with everything,
So one day
2022.
you just said, did you accidentally fall into the mob genre like I did?
Yeah, I did.
I accidentally fell into it, dude.
I did. How did you fall into it?
Well, because there was this guy named John A. Light who you interviewed, and when I came into this in a year and a half ago, John A. Light was at the top of his game, getting really good numbers. And I interviewed him, and it was not a very good interview because his phone line was really busy. But then he kind of tortured me after that, and not a very nice guy. But the fact of the matter is, I did interview him, and you interviewed him, and his numbers are horrible with you. And that you just recently interviewed him. He's taken a big hit. He's not nearly as popular. In 1.5 years, his popularity has tremendously dropped.
I don't know what it is with the YouTube algorithm or whatever the hell it is, but they pick and choose who they want, because if you really think you have a big name or something, and it's a good video, you think, and then you post it and it's just like, it doesn't do as well as you want, so you're just kind of left there to think like, man, what the hell? But then you do something, with someone else that
You
may
never
not.
know when you do a video, my man, you never know how many views it's going to get you, who's going to get you what. It's always a little nerve wracking.
It is.
When you drop, you're like, oh, how am I? And then you look at the numbers and say, why is it only at a couple hundred?
Right.
I'm blessed because I have a certain amount of people that will watch my videos. So my numbers are usually okay.
Yeah.
But some of them will not be as high as others. But I'll tell you what, I'd rather do a video that gets 3,000 views and a lot of compliments than do 10,000. It's a lot of people are mad at me.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, because there's a lot. Once you get those higher numbers, it seems like there's a lot more people get pissed off. That's for sure. That's
And I
what
noticed
I've got.
that with your Danny Trio one.
Yeah, I mean, with the recent one though, with Larry and Frank, that segment. I mean, it's just gotten pretty good, but a lot of comments. But there's still always going to be the ones that
Yeah, but the Matteo, he's not hated at all.
No, I wouldn't say so either.
He's a laid back guy. He does his thing, and he doesn't attack people.
No.
Same with Luisi. Now you've interviewed a guy that kind of let me down. If he's watching this, I don't care if he knows what I'm saying. The guy that was with Luisi.
Oh, Paul Tanso.
Now Paul Tanso got a hold of me and Danny and asked us to do a show for him to get out his story. And so I said to him, okay, I'll do it for you. But as long as you give me an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it for him and got like 8,000 views on the video.
Damn.
And for some reason, the guy will not return my calls or keep his obligation to doing the video with me that he promised. Oh. Since that time, I see him doing a lot of videos that aren't getting high views. So I'm confused why he would I'm not sure I'm guessing he knows somebody that doesn't like me. That's what I'm guessing.
I know
And in this industry that happens.
with Paul, I know, it was, me and him always, when we did shows, we had a pretty good relationship and stuff, and we still do, but I don't know. From what I've heard, he's just working, and I don't, even with the Bobby Luisi show, he always told me he wasn't, technically, advanced, so he didn't really know how to work all that. So he was going to have, he told me that he wanted to do a show as well, after he was done with, Bobby and stuff. But, I wasn't really going to go on, and just, bash Bobby or whatever and nothing like that. But, we were just going to do one final show or whatever. But, I don't think we, rarely ever got around to it because he just doesn't really know how to work it. I don't think, because.
Yeah, I think he's using that for an excuse personally. But, he's been doing this a while. I'm sure he understands how to turn a camera on. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. But, so who did you interview most recently, Paul or Luisi?
Well, that segment actually came out with Larry, Bobby, and Paulie. That was just a little segment. I've seen a lot of other guys, what do interviews now is they'll go back to their old ones and take like a 10-minute clip out of it. And that's what I did. But the first person that I did, one with was, Bobby, and then, Paulie, came on and they started doing, their co show or whatever.
Did Paulie ever say anything to you about what happened between him and Luisi?
He told me a little bit, but, he said, we were going to talk a little bit more about it, but I never really got the full story from either end, and I don't know. I liked their show and I thought it was pretty cool, but
yeah,
I guess it came
guys, two different guys. Bobby Luisi's been around for a long time. He has a very interesting story.
Yeah.
I don't know how interesting Paulie's story is because he didn't give me an opportunity to talk to him about his story. But I know he was in jail for murder. He got found innocent.
Yeah.
Or they dropped the charges or something.
Yeah, it was like double homicide or something. He got framed for.
I seen the article when they were in the newspaper and stuff.
Oh, damn, really?
Now I'm going to talk to you about a guy that went to war with me, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Anthony Ramundi.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a lot of your guys' stuff. And
yes, another guy, his favorite term from me, child molester. When you get these guys backed in the corner, that's what they pull out, child molester.
So what was, I suppose, I've kind of heard Anthony's, side with you, or, his take, on the whole Cinemills TV. I've watched that interview and stuff, but
I got sick, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, I never really heard you.
I wasn't going to die for Anthony Ramundi. But the fact of the matter is, whether you like Anthony Ramundi or not, he's an entertaining bastard. People like him. I don't think it's so much they like him. They like his style. And, but a lot of people, my biggest problem with him would be the military stuff. If he's going to lie about the mobster stuff, 90% of these guys lie about their mobster stuff. Even the guys that aren't, that haven't ratted, they all make themselves bigger than what they were. A majority of them do that. But Anthony Ramundi talks about killing 300 men as a sniper in Vietnam, and anybody in their right mind knows that's literally impossible.
From what he told me was with, when I did a show with him, he said it was like with the bazooka, or I don't know.
Do you know how much work it would take to kill 300 men?
A lot, I would assume.
It would be like a full-time job for a few years.
Yeah.
It's like every time he got pushed in the corner, he would change the story somewhat. And then I talked to, I had on Stolen Valor people groups. I had on the lawyer that Ramundi. I had his partner on, the lawyer that Ramundi said came and got him out of jail and took him to Vietnam, even though he committed the murder. Some of the stuff just doesn't add up. But that's not the part that I have issues with. That's the part I have issues with him, the military. As for the mob stuff, I don't know if you've seen my show. I don't know if you've seen my show about Gunner.
No.
I did one with Scott Bernstein.
Did you ever have Gunner on?
A few times. And then Gunner, Scott Bernstein, and I did a show where it was proven that the majority of what Gunner was saying was not true. And we proved it. And then his numbers started plummeting after that. I like him as a person, and I gave him the opportunity to come back on the show to discuss what was being claimed against him, but he didn't want to. So that's one of those things I didn't really feel good about, because he's not a bad guy. He just, once again, a guy that likes to tell tall tales. And that's what you'll get with most of these guys, tall tales.
And when I've watched Gunner's show, one of his episodes recently, and yeah, he on his YouTube, and he did say, yeah, that he was never a mob guy, and he's just really trying to get out his own story now, is what it is. And I really don't know what all he was trying to claim and stuff at the beginning. What were you saying that he was claiming?
He was claiming that he was related to the Tocos that ran Detroit. He is related to a Toco, but not the one that ran Detroit.
Oh.
And he knew certain people high up in the family. And then I literally had mobsters calling me from Detroit saying that he's not telling the truth.
Damn,
and, it started roll. It's just, I literally had guys from Detroit calling me that were still active in the life.
Really?
Yeah, that were so mad at him for saying the things he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, if you say stuff that ain't true, I mean, there's still mob guys obviously active to this day.
Yes, you see me, I made up my decision that I will become informants' worst nightmares. And that's what I think I've become. They attack me every day. They have other podcasters do shows on me. If you don't have thick skin, do not get involved in this. Yeah. You're a young guy, so
no.
my best advice to you is keep your head down, just do your shows, and
don't get involved in the drama.
Involved in the minefields. Don't.
No, I mean, all the guys that I've done shows with, I mean, I don't have anything personally against them. I absolutely appreciate them coming on and telling their story, and whether, like I said, I just kind of report the story, and people decide what they want with it. I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of the way I'm looking at it right now. And
I noticed that you also Fat Andy Ruggiano.
Yeah, his son.
Him on. And you know what? To be fair to him, he was the real deal. He was never made because he spent a majority of his time stoned, but he'll admit that himself. And the only reason he was never made is because he was a junkie. Otherwise, he would have been made. And his father was a very, very serious gangster. A matter of fact, Angel Gotti and Angel Gotti's daughter told me that they were shocked when they heard that Ruggiano was flipping, because they never expected it.
Yeah, I mean, his father was Fat Andy. I mean, he's a very serious guy, so I'm sure it turned quite a few heads when they found that out. I mean,
and the problem that I have with Ruggiano, the problem I have with him is that even though his father was dead, he ratted on his father. He started talking about his father's crimes. And to me, whether your father's alive or not, you don't do that. And he put a lot of people away. He put men away. And that's the biggest problem that I have with these guys. A lot of them they want to say they met God. God's taken over their life, or they're a different person now. They're working with kids. But in all reality, most of them are not.
Yeah, I know for sure with Anthony, though, in his case, in particular, he helps out a lot of people with his with addiction and stuff like that. I think he's even a therapist and stuff too now. So I don't know, for me, I really like to hear a good redemption story, and he's definitely got one.
Well, did you ever hear about the couple that were robbing the
mob?
They were robbing the social clubs in New York.
Yeah, I just watched that movie today at work. Robbing the mob. Rob the mob.
This couple right here.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, I just watched that today.
So they said that the people that killed them was a guy named Dominic Pizzioni,
Pizzonia, yeah.
and Ronald Trucchio. And do you know who testified against them? And that crime was a cold case, but because that person testified against them, they went to prison. Ruggiano.
In that case?
Yes.
Damn. So both of them ended up going to prison?
On a cold case, a case that would have never been solved.
Oh, and
so
now,
you know, and let's face it, the couple had it coming to them. They went too far. You know.
I mean, it's crazy you bring that up because I just watched it today. Yeah, in the movie, you know, they were going in and just robbing them and making them do ridiculous shit, which I don't know if it was true or not. But I mean,
not her, but him.
Him, yeah. He was having them getting
toward the end. He didn't care. He started getting after he robbed the first couple ones. They were willing to forget about it, just leave him alone, forget about it.
But he kept doing it. Yeah, and you know, and like the first robbery scene, it shows him, you know, with the machine gun and not even knowing how to fucking handle it or whatever. And then like, you know, he has the guys stripped down naked, or not naked, but like in their boxers, you know, and then they come out of the social club and they're chasing him. And then the feds are across the street taking pictures and shit. And it makes the news and stuff, which I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, movies.
Do you know who this guy is?
That's, is that Mikey Scars?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mikey Scars is also involved in putting these two guys in prison.
Damn.
The same guys, you know. That's why what I found out, the more you do this, the more you learn about people, the more studying you do. I get a lot of knowledge from Angel Gotti. She knows because her family's been through it. You know, her father got ratted out by several men. And when you start learning stuff and then you look it up, you're like, wow. These guys, cold cases that they would have never solved. And when these guys decided to become informants, they decided to take these guys down.
Yeah, and you know, with that being said, it's like when they want someone to inform, from what I know, is that if they want to get a good deal or good immunity, they have to talk about every single crime they have knowledge of, and if they don't, then boom, they're fucked. Then,
but unfortunately, though, the FBI doesn't always live up to that standard. You know,
they have their tricks.
You know, there are some times where they just don't. They just want to put some certain people in prison, and they'll let, like these guys right now. These guys that are rats are basically informants. Some of them are running on YouTube, brutally attacking people. I mean, I just recently had one threaten to swap my house.
What the hell does that mean?
Swap means like call the police and have them come to my house.
What?
On fake charges.
On rape charges?
Fake charges.
Oh, I was gonna say, damn.
Yeah, on fake charges.
Yeah,
that's a felony. That's a crime.
Yeah.
Then, you know, they'll start looking at your past, everything in your past that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure once they, like, you know, in your case particular, like, you know, when you do research on them, they probably, you know, get pissed off if they bring up something, and then they start doing their research and stuff. But I don't know. That's why, even if I, you know, like you said, you have that website or whatever that I can, you know, do research and stuff. I mean, because, you know, when, like saying, you know, I'm sure you've heard of Vlad and, you know, how he interviews, you know, he brings up the, you know, the questions that are up in the air, you know what I mean? Like,
but Vlad also ignores the things they've done. Like with Hootie Russo, do you have any idea who it was that he may have testified against and sent to prison? He didn't have to testify him in the end because the guy took a plea, but it was LaBarca. That was his brother-in-law.
From what he told me is a global plea, whatever that is.
It's a global plea, but the fact of the matter, it's still given evidence. I like Hootie.
Yeah, me too.
But you know, I have no, you know, to me, Hootie's the least worst of these guys. He ran into a problem in his life, and you know, the global plea he's used on my show. I've had Hootie on my show a few times. People like him. You get numbers with him. And people say to me, the thing you'll hear about me is like, all Lee cares is about views. Duh, this is YouTube.
Yeah, no. I mean, when you're trying to get a show and stuff, yeah, you want to have good numbers. I mean, if not, you're not going to really go anywhere, you know? So, no, I agree with you. Hootie's got a really good name on YouTube, and the algorithm loves him, you know? So people are going to
And
gravitate
some
to it.
people like that. Anthony Ramundi's like that. And that's where you got to, like you had Jimmy A. Light on.
Yeah. Yeah, John Eli's brother. Yeah, I think you had him on too. You had John and him
Yeah,
on.
I got hell for that. But, yeah, I had him on. He's a character and a half. I'll just
Yep.
leave it at that. He wasn't a gangster, so I'm not going to say that. He wasn't a gangster at all. So, he was basically in the shadow of his brother. But, that's different. I'm not going to say anything negative about him. Jimmy A. Light has his own problems.
Yeah, no, I like him.
I'm just looking at some of these other people you have here. I see that you have a very good guy here, Tommy Stiggs.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He was a bookie.
I like Tommy.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
When Tommy needed to get to 1,000, he called me up. Well, he didn't call me up. Someone said to me, and I told Tommy that I was doing a show, and I said, I think he needed 40. And during the show, he got to 1,000.
Damn.
And it was just like, never has he ever said anything bad about me ever.
No, he doesn't say anything bad about anyone that I've seen. He's a really nice guy.
He doesn't talk much about, if he doesn't like somebody, he just stops going into the show.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Tommy Stiggs is one of the good guys on here. That's how I look at it. Some people, he's not everybody's cup of tea, but none of us are. But he's never done anything negative at all to me.
yeah.
Comes on, he's very honest. Matter of fact, he has a wrench in my show. He's a wrench on my show,
What is that? What is that like?
When you do lives, you should have you done lives yet?
I've done a few. Not a whole lot.
You should try to find people that you trust to be a wrench, which means they take care of your chat room.
Oh, okay.
And just somebody comes in and starts. But you know what? If you're not at that point right now, don't worry about it. Yeah, and so you actually also did Bill Stacks.
Yeah, I think you just had him on too recently, haven't you?
Yeah, no. Bill Stacks and I, we've had our issues. And
you guys are cool now?
Yeah, we just work things out over time. That's what you try to do.
Yeah, that's good.
And believe me and him, we were at it heavy because he was big with Ramundi.
Yeah, and
so when Ramundi used to attack me, it would be on his show.
Oh, so then you guys wouldn't get along.
I remember Stacks and me said to each other, "There ain't no way that we will ever talk or make up."
And now look, you just never know, man.
You just never know. Exactly right. There's certain people that I would never make up with. I probably despise me too. So you tried to get into the gangster rap side on your show too, didn't you?
Yeah, towards the beginning. I mean, I think I still might get into it a little bit again, but that's how I kind of got into it. I did it with lots of gangster rappers and comedians, actors, business owners. That's how I really first started it, and that's when the whole invest in yourself was.
So that's two separate genres, though. You got to be careful with that. The rap genre is literally a genre in itself.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Whereas the gangster genre, if people do it just within that genre, they do well. But when they try to take it into the mob genre and that, I notice it doesn't really go well.
No, you're right.
And that includes Cinemill. Cinemill, same thing. They get a couple guys on to do really well, but in general, I think that they're going more toward the rap now and away from the gangsters.
Yeah, you really got to find your niche. And since I did,
dude, let me tell you something. It takes time to find it sometimes, but you gotta be willing to rebrand.
Yeah, no, I know.
As long as you're willing to rebrand, I've done it 3 times now. I've never gone backwards ever. I've had shows literally working to destroy my show, and they have not been able to.
Damn.
Their numbers are down, but not my numbers.
Yeah.
And that's the negative part about getting involved with any of this. Now, are you trying to have a clothing line?
Yeah, I got it right behind me. I got t-shirts and hoodies and hats and sweats, you
Explain
know.
something. Do you have anything that you can hold up?
Oh yeah, just right behind me actually. Those ones. Can you
Do
see
you have
them?
anything on?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
love
And
clothing.
explain that clothing that you have.
Well, basically, I started that in 2020, when COVID hit, and I just, kind of had more time on my hands, and I really wanted to, kind of dive into the business, world, and I wanted to start my own stuff, and so I made my own T-shirt, and it was shit, absolutely shit, and eventually I kind of kept working on it and
Yeah.
stuff, and I wanted to start something that was positive and that I could represent, and so I thought, invest in yourself. Everyone can do that if they want, like with your show. I mean, anybody, anybody that wants to change their life around, have a good redemption story, or if they've always been straight, a businessman and, wanted to go in the business, you know what I mean? So it's whatever you want to be, and whoever you want to invest, whatever you want to invest in, it takes time, money, and to mentally do it and go through stuff. But people can wear the brand and
So
represent me in my show.
it's a separate entity from your podcast.
Yeah, it's just invest in yourself clothing, but I guess they fall underneath the same brand,
Right.
invest in
Right.
yourself podcast.
Right. No, I definitely understand that. Are you planning on staying in the mob genre now?
I mean, I think I always will. I mean, I really like it. I enjoy it, and I like I'd like to, talk to more people like gangsters and stuff, maybe that weren't mobsters, you know what I mean? Different gangs and stuff. I'd like to, branch out to for sure. I've always liked the crime and, want to hear a good redemption story, like I said. And so, yeah,
Do you often have people you try to get an interview and they'll look at who you've had and they say, no, I can't do your show because you've had this many informants on?
um, I've got, I don't think the informants like I've gotten people that say, well, you had this guy on, so I don't really want to come on. And I'm just like, I tell them, what I tell them is like, well,
That's happened to me too. Don't feel bad.
yeah, yeah. So I just tell them, I was like, man, well, look, man, you might not like them. I don't follow all the drama that goes on. I mean, if you got something with them, that's with you and them, not me and you. But still, they want to, say, well, still you had them on, and I can't support anything that they support. And I'm like, well, all right
You're one
then.
of the few channels that hasn't have Gene Barolo on.
Yeah, no, I never had. I've reached out to him a few times and stuff, and we said that we were gonna do one and stuff, but just never really got around to doing it, I suppose. But
Gene
hopefully in the
Barolo,
future.
Gene Barolo and I, we have our history, but Gene Barolo, his numbers have been always been very kind to me.
Yeah.
He is probably out of all these guys, for some reason, Gene Barolo is a car wreck. People love to watch car wrecks.
Yeah, his author, Louis Romano, you
Yes.
heard of him? Yeah, he always says the same thing, but it's like in a loving way. I mean, it's not like to
Yeah,
disrespect him, but like
people love to
people,
watch car wrecks. They just do. When you're your own worst enemy, and people know that for 2 weeks you may not hear about Gene Barolo doing anything, and all of a sudden something happens.
and then everybody's
That's just
watching and
Gene
listening.
Barolo. The guy's in his mid-30s or pushing 40, and it's just listen. So you're making a documentary series now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Explain to
It's
me your documentary series.
okay. Well, with that, I'm doing a documentary series about the American Mafia. I got 11 episodes altogether. Each episode is about a different crime family, and I got there's 11 episodes, and each episode is different. So let me see. I got an episode about the Gambino crime family, the Genovese crime family, Bonanno, Colombo, Lucchese, the Gallo crew, not the crime family, but a crew, Chicago outfit, Trafficante family, Jewish mafia. And with that, I got about 15 ex mobsters, that are featured in this. The only one that I couldn't get a mobster for was the Lucchese family, but each other ones, I got someone from the life. I got retired police officers, undercover agents, mob experts that a lot of the people might be familiar with, that are in our mafia genre, So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, man. I've been working on it since the summer. I mean, it's almost done, so I just thought, I got to come on and promote it.
Well, I have a 3 minute 25 second clip that you are letting me play,
Yeah.
and I'll play this at the end of this video. I'm going to put your channel on the bottom of this. I'll put your clothing line underneath this video. And if anybody wants to go check that out, check out his clothing line, or check out your show, or go sub to your show, it's greatly, you're on here. I like to help guys that are starting out, and because people helped me when I was starting out.
Yeah, got to pay it forward.
You got to pay it forward, without a doubt. Well, I'm going to play this on, and this is part of your work.
Yeah. The Colombo crime family was also known for having strong hitmen in their family. The Colombo crime family's top hitman was Greg Scarpa. He was nicknamed the Grim Reaper, and he was a capo and a hitman for the Colombo crime family. And on top of that, he was an informant for the FBI.
Greg Scarpa had a lengthy relationship with the FBI. And Greg Scarpa was also the guy who recruited people like Larry Mazza into the family.
The way I got in was in college. I was a hardworking kid. I had 2 or 3 jobs. One of the jobs was working in a supermarket. And at that supermarket, I met this older woman. Again, at the time, I was 17, going on 18. She was in the 30 area, a little above. Wound up having a relationship, got very close. So close, she was married, had kids. Still, we kept it going. Eventually, she wants me to meet her husband. And she says he could do a lot of things for me. We're opening up this big company. We can make you the sales manager. You can represent the whole East Coast. This is incredible. So ultimately, I meet him, and it turns out he's a top guy in the Colombo family.
He was a very, very, very violent guy. No question about it. He was playing the role of cooperator, and he was playing the role of wise guy as well. So he had his hands in both of the cookie jars, and that's made him even more dangerous. He could get away with a lot of stuff because of that.
So he put me in charge of part of his numbers business. And the numbers business is the smallest, lowest level racket that the mob is involved in. And that's where you start. And then it goes on, and before you know it, it's a snowball heading downhill. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You see a beating take place. Then you back up your buddy because he's my friend. I can't not help him. You get involved, and then he asks you to do something. It's a slow process, but ultimately, Greg he's grooming me and he's educating me on that lifestyle. He probably was given carte blanche now by the family because he helped them. So they look the other way. Then he's a tremendous earner. So they don't want to kill this guy. He's bringing in, 50, 60,000 a week. He was probably, if not in all of Cosa Nostra, up there at the top of the best killers ever. And I say that because he did the precarious hits. He didn't do the hit where you always read about it. They call your best friend in the basement. There's nobody around except the 2 shooters. And it's an easy hit. Where you set a guy up in the front seat, the guy in the back seat has the gun. Those are all the ones you see in movies and stuff. And a lot of them are that way. But Greg would do the one where he had to walk into a crowded restaurant, doesn't care that there's 2 cop cars in front of the place, doesn't care that there's innocent bystanders all over, pops the guy twice, walks out like he just finished lunch. When the family was asked to kill a girl, who did they go to? They went to Greg Scarpa to do it. So he did a lot of the dirty work, and I think they looked the other way.
Yeah, that's really good work. I like that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That was I think that was like the second episode I did, so the other ones, like going a little bit further, they got more videos and, to go along with the stories, because at the first, when I was first editing, I didn't know that. But, as I went on, I started putting videos and, background stuff. So you can, while they're telling the story, you can see that, you know what I mean? You can see it visually.
Greg Scarpa was an authentic madman.
Yeah, he has quite the story.
I mean, when the Colombo War started, they tried to kill him first.
Damn.
Because they knew to get him out of the way, and they missed the hit. And it's the worst thing they ever did because he backed up Persico, and who was in prison at that time, and there was no way that they were going to lose with Scarpa on their side. And
Yeah,
you know,
he was a top hitman, so I could.
and he was crazy. It's like Mazda said, he would walk into a restaurant, cap you. He didn't care who was around, and he'd walk out.
Yeah, he didn't worry about no one, going to tell the police. You know what I mean? Because shit, he had the police in his back pocket. You know what I mean? Because he was an informant for 20, what was it, 20, 30 years?
Half the cops in New York at that time were in someone's back pocket.
Yeah.
You had a lot of corrupt cops in New York that would look the other way.
I believe
So for that, did Mazda actually sit down and do that for you?
Yeah, we did with each of these interviews that I did with people, shit, we probably did an hour interview. So when I was editing, I just had clips that I had, I edited out of the interview and I put them into the documentary episode altogether. So, that was, the Greg Scarpa portion of it was like towards the end of the documentary after I had talked about each boss of the Colombo family. And, everyone throws their input in, I probably did like 25, 30 interviews altogether. And so I just had to mash them in there and, say my part of it as well. Cause the whole documentary follows what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
I'm going to show you some pictures. This is kind of a test. I want you to tell me who they are.
Okay.
And then there's going to be some that I guarantee you don't recognize. And I'm going to explain
shit.
to you, as someone coming into this genre, things that you have to remember.
Okay.
I'm not trying to preach to you, but these are things that people might bring up to you. Okay, you know who this guy is, right?
Yeah, Gene Borello.
Okay. I'm going to bring you. Okay, do you know who this is?
Whitey Bulger on the left, right?
Yes.
And is that his crew? I don't know their names.
That's the GS brothers. That's right now one of the GS brothers.
They killed him, right?
They killed him, yes. And they're the ones that Arulada informed on and sent to prison for life.
Really? Those three?
No, the two of them. The GS brothers.
Damn.
The GS brothers were given the opportunity to inform against Arulada, and they refused. And then Arulada was given the opportunity to inform against the guys that wouldn't do it and agreed to do it.
Oh,
it's a very dirty world, this thing, man. It's a very dirty world.
When I do like a interview with, every single mob guy, whether they were informant or they never became an informant, they always just tell me, it's just nothing but treachery in this. Either way around you look at it, there's
treachery is one thing, but ratting out your friends or informing on your friends, just to me, I mean, these guys were best friends in the street for years. Would you inform on your best friend?
Shit, I was never in that life, you know what I mean? So I really can't.
Say you grew up with him since he's been a kid.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be in that life at all. So like, for me, I just wouldn't put myself in that situation. You know what I mean? So, they did. You know what I mean? So when they did, I mean, you know what you're signing up for. You know what I mean? So
yeah, when
you get in that life, you gotta know what's coming with it. So you do the crime, you do the time. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what
you said. It. You did the crime, you do the time.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is, and some cases, I mean, they don't, but I mean, with each guy that I do shows with, that was an informant, they give out their reason on why they became an informant, and to me and everyone, mainly everyone that come on can kind of understand it, but like I said, I was never in their situation, when
Larry didn't have enough balls to do the time, and that's just my. I'll give you an example. You know who this is?
No.
That's Tommy Crotty.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Worst killer there was.
Mm-hmm.
He was given an opportunity to testify against John Gotti, amongst other people, because he was in the Bonanno family and he knew other families.
Mm-hmm.
And he refused. And he's still sitting in prison. Do you know who this guy is?
That's Jimmy Calandra. Calandria?
Yes. Yeah. Now, Jimmy Calandra testified against this guy, Tommy Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Reynolds got 50 years because Jimmy testified against him, and they both were at the murder scene. And not only did Jimmy testify against him, Jimmy testified against this man right here, Anthony Sparrow. He was a big man on the street. He was considered a real good guy. for a gangster, he was considered a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Several guys, along with Jimmy, testified against him, and he died in prison. And it's like, and the main reason I'm showing you this is you have guys that are informants, but let's remember the guys that they put in prison that died in prison that wouldn't inform,
Right.
even though they had an opportunity to inform.
Right. And, I think that, the feds, they have their way of, making people flip. And that's just kind of what happens, and like in Larry's case, Larry Mazza's, everyone's case is different. But in his particularly, he had his boss was an informant for 20, 30 years. So, I mean, and so
I can't argue with you there, my man.
No, that's what I'm saying. So
he was the big, okay. Just say you take that Larry Mazza Scarpa thing, put it to the side. I'm talking about other guys that, were willing to take their sentence, but there's just some guys that aren't willing to take their sentence.
We'll see. And here's another one that I've heard, like John A. He said he had 30 people testifying against him. So that's what made
John
him.
A. Light is nothing what he says he is. John A. Light is the biggest myth there is.
So from what
most of what John A. Light talks about are lies. When John A. Light got on the stand, he was such a bad witness, he couldn't put nobody away. The jury never believed him.
Did he?
Horrible witness.
So, but didn't he eventually put people away?
No. They wouldn't even use him because he was such a horrible witness.
So
he testified against John Gotti Jr.
And that's how he got free?
No. Yeah, well, he was supposed to testify, and that's how he got free. But when he testified against John Gotti Jr., John Gotti Jr. was found innocent. And you know what the jury said? Because no one believed him. The jury didn't believe anything he said. And do you know who this is? Okay, let me see. This is piss off the informant night with you. You're just part of it. You're like, I didn't want to do this. Okay, I want to show you another one, man. Do you know who this is?
That's John A. Light, right?
Do you know who that guy is next to him?
No, who is that?
That guy right there is the convicted child molester.
Really?
And he helped write John A. Light's book.
Damn. Did he know that he was? I mean,
let me ask you a question. Would you put your arm around another man like this?
No, but no.
Okay, look.
Well, actually, I better not say that because there's a picture of me and my friend
with no shirt.
No. Well, yeah, there is, but shit, you get drunk and you do stupid shit.
Oh, they're not drunk; they're sober. Dude. That's a picture taken in prison.
Oh, damn!
Would you get up close like that with someone in prison?
I mean, that's one thing they say not to do. That's one thing but for him, I don't know. If he didn't know he was a child molester at the time, I don't know if he was in prison for that, then that's different. If that's when he was, if he was in prison at that moment.
Did you expect me to mess around with you a little bit like this?
Yeah. Hell yeah, I did, man. And that's why
people remember, dude, when you do your show, people like entertainment.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
They don't want to hear me and you up here going back. They want a little fun put in the show.
Yeah, and
and they want me to talk about informants and because you're a young guy, remember, this guy right here, he is, right?
John Gotti, right?
And that's, those two guys right there, who put them both away, right?
Sammy
the Bull.
Mm-hmm.
And John Gotti, when he went to prison, all he had to do was sign a paper when he was in prison that he admitted being in the mafia.
Mm-hmm.
He refused to sign it.
And he would have been.
So they kept him in maximum security, and he died in maximum security. They were willing to put him in a less difficult prison, but they wanted him to sign things. He refused to. When he got sick, he wouldn't take, in the end, of course, he was dying of cancer.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to give them the satisfaction of even taking an aspirin.
Damn.
Because they wanted to break him.
Yeah.
And he said, it's he was willing to give up his life because he knew that was part of the life. That was he knew that the ending was a bullet or prison. Those are the only 99.9%. That was the ending of the mob. That's how you died.
Yeah.
And he went to prison.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, what's his name? Fat Andy. He told Anthony Ruggiano, he told me this on the interview. His dad, when he, kind of brought him into the life, he told him that, if you want to be in part of this life, going to prison is part of the fucking job.
And to be fair to Junior, in the beginning, he did go to prison. He did his prison time, but then he got to the point where he didn't want to do it no more. But he did do it. He did do some serious prison time. But his father was alive too when he did his prison time. He wasn't going to embarrass his father. His father was not the type of guy that you wanted to get angry at you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are pretty familiar with who he is, man.
So, what's your opinion of this man?
Sammy the Bull. Well, I don't know. I've never talked to him, I guess, personally, but from what I've heard, he did. I guess he was convicted on the 19 murders and stuff, but I don't know. Now he's doing shows and stuff, and just like everyone else in the mafia, that's not.
And see, this is the problem, though. The problem is these guys are changing mafia history and they're saying things that weren't true.
And I've noticed with, you have a few people. I mean, just in general, like if you're having a conversation, with three people that were, say you were hanging out with your friends, and they start telling a story. Then the other one says the other one. Then the other one says the other. It's all different shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Rico too. You can be a guy having a cup of coffee in a social club, and if you hear somebody say something, you become part of Rico. That means they can convict you. They can give you 20 years for sitting at that table and having coffee if you do not confess. Okay. And you know what? I'm not, we've got a couple minutes left. I'm just going to explain to you one other thing so you understand. Now, have you listened to a lot of Sammy's stories?
I've heard a few. I suppose, when I start listening to stories and stuff, I listen to the guys that I'm going to have on my show. But when I do have free time, I listen to other people's stuff. But I haven't listened to a whole lot. But
do you know who Alan Kaiser is?
Who's that?
Okay, Alan Kaiser. Sammy did a story, and it was about a kid that ran at him. The kid was a raging drug addict and ran at him when he was pointing a shotgun at him. This is the kid right. 1 second, please. And the kid was 16 years old at the time. This is Alan Kaiser. Okay. Because Alan Kaiser was executed by Sammy and supposedly Louis Melito, who was Sammy's best friend, who Sammy killed. Then the coroner's report, everything says the kid was shot running away. The kid had nothing to do with anybody there. He had no drugs in his body whatsoever, so he wasn't a druggie. And so Sammy has come out years later now saying the kid was a stoned out druggie running at him, and that's why he shot him.
But in the report, it says there was nothing at all.
And what happened worse is when Sammy started ratting, they called this kid John Doe. And so they went to the parents' house of Alan Kaiser, and they said to Alan Kaiser's parents, "We found the killer of your son. It's Sammy Govano. But we're not going to prosecute him for killing your son because he's turning state evidence."
That'd be a fucking horrible thing to tell.
Nobody was ever prosecuted for killing Alan Kaiser, even though they know who did it.
Could you, just imagine some shit like that.
And your 16-year-old son.
Yeah. I mean.
And it was also, Sammy killed a few other people too.
Right.
Where the families came together with Alan Kaiser's family. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the complaints. You're letting this man get away with murders that you know about now because you want him to be a federal witness.
Yeah.
So the killing of a 16-year-old kid who was just taking his girlfriend home that night, was walking back home. He witnessed the shooting and got executed for witnessing that shooting.
And I mean,
treachery is one thing, but when you're talking about guys ratting, informants, and this being, I could tell by me telling you this story a little bit, you're thinking about that, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, when they tell their stories about, going at other mob guys and other criminals, and, killing them and stuff, it's different. But when, with someone like an innocent or a civilian, that they're supposed to be off limits, and they have nothing to do with
And
that.
remember, and always remember his name. His name was Alan Kaiser. These are the people that the informants don't want you to know about because they've killed people and gotten away with it. There's another informant that had his brother-in-law killed because he was in love with the brother-in-law's wife.
I think I've heard a little bit about that. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah, I'm not going to mention his name right now because he's coming at me hard right now, but he knows I'm talking about him. And but this is the thought of some of these informants. I'll buy your Larry Mazza one. Okay, he's working for the biggest rat of all time. One of the biggest rats. Him and Whitey Bulger, they were right there, same level. Brutal killers that the government was protecting.
Yeah, I mean, could the government, like they say, I mean, this, like a lot of people say, I mean, they just, they say they're the biggest gang, but I mean, they're obviously helping. They do their shit, but I mean, some of these criminals, I mean, they've done some bad shit, and the feds let them get away with it. I mean, murder is something you can't come back from. You know what I mean? I mean, there's no bringing someone back to life. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, you can't come back from murder. You know what I mean? You can't bring someone's back from dead. That's the worst thing you can do.
And what do you think when you hear these guys get out and they tell you that they changed their life around? They're not the same people they used to be.
Well, when they tell me that, I just, I don't know. I when I think about it like, I guess I don't know the people that they killed and stuff, but obviously they had a family and stuff. But, for me, I don't think I've interviewed anyone that killed a civilian from my knowledge, or else, I probably wouldn't want to do a show with them like that. You know what I mean? But, when they
I'm not going to get into it, but you have. Yeah.
Without me knowing,
I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. But you know what I mean.
Okay. So I'll give you an example. Jimmy Clandor, there's a man that says he changed his life around. He's not that person, right?
Yeah. And I've never had any, I've had a few text messages with him, but I don't really know his whole story and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Here's how Jimmy Clandor here's how much Jimmy Clandor changed his life.
Yo, Lee Cole, you fat piece of shit.
Guy Cole, he'll do anything for subscribers. You got Ted Bundy, he sits on his ass all day, he probably shits himself.
This interview yesterday with Fatso and Stacks.
That fat fuck destroyed all the interviews. I won't be giving no interviews to nobody ever again. That's done, man. He's the type of guy, he will put anyone on that show for him to get subs. He's nothing but a rat. He probably needs to go take a shower, go buy a bar of soap, and go clean your ass. You ugly fucking duckling, you.
That's what I do, Lee Cole. You fat piece of shit.
Hopefully God strikes you and you fucking disappear.
I'm not going to give certain people any life on YouTube. I don't want to mention their name.
Yo, Lee Cole, you fat piece of shit.
Jeez, he does not like you at all. He does not like you, damn, man.
That's one of the proudest moments of my life, right there.
Damn.
That man hates me that much.
How did you piss him off? Jeez.
Because we went at it. And he was involved with the murder of a woman at a doorway, and he ratted on the guy that was with him. Tommy Reynolds got 50 years for it. Jimmy Clandor, he did a little time for it, but he did it as a witness. And Jimmy Clandor doesn't want to admit that if you're standing next to someone that murders a woman, you're involved with that murder just as much as that man that pulled the trigger. You guys sat in the car, you planned it out. Then you went and did it, and you shot an innocent woman in the face. Tommy Reynolds did. But see, this is like, I want you to and the reason I'm showing you this stuff is because I want you to understand that a lot of these people aren't who you think they are. I'm not trying to give you a lecture here. I'm just trying to tell you what I've been through, because I've been where you've been. I've been at the part where I interview people say to me, "Oh, Lee, if Sammy Gravano called you tomorrow, you would change your philosophy if you're going to interview with him." No, I wouldn't. I would not ever interview Sammy Gravano, but that's me. However direction you take your show, I wish you only the best of luck. And, it's, I'm going to show you a couple other things. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to get him mad, I said, you know what? I should have slept with that. I should have went home with that guy tonight. I should have slept with that guy tonight. And I might have even said it even nastier to get him. And he slapped me in my face. Wow. Slapped me, his whole palm. He cracked me right across my face that my jaw was killing me. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. And then the next day, obviously I was mad, but I stood. I never told my Uncle Georgie, who was alive at the time. I never mentioned it to my brother, nothing. And this was before they went away. And the next day he goes, it wasn't that bad. I didn't hit you that bad. Come on, I'm going to take you to New York. We'll go buy you clothes. We'll go.
That's Tom. That's Mikey Scar's ex-wife.
Oh, damn. Who was that? It sounded familiar, that girl.
That's his wife. It's just his wife, Tina. She, very popular woman, but she talks about, what it was like to be married to him. You see this nice guy, but she said something else. Let me see. These are just informants I'm showing you how they act. Some of them act out of prison right now.
See this face? Is this a face that looks like that I give a fuck? These fucking girls are crazy. Right? Hell, look. Crazy. They're crazy. Why do you torture my life? You fucking lunatic.
To the door.
I did this to the door. I pushed the door in.
Dirty hoe. That's what you are. Look, tell everybody how you fucked 100 guys. Tell everybody that on YouTube. Tell everybody that. Tell everybody you fucked your neighbor. Matter of fact, let me go talk to Andrew. I know we have, I can't really get in touch with you, so the bullshit we going through is fucking stupid as fighting. You want to play games? I'm stabbing every single one of them. Let him come up here. Go. Watch.
Damn.
That's Gene with his girlfriend.
Shit.
And that's not the only guy. He got in trouble for doing it to a girlfriend that was married to another man. So, we can go on and on. These guys aren't what you think. Some of them are. Some of them have stayed out of trouble. I believe Larry Mazza has stayed out of trouble. I believe some of them have. But in general, a lot of them don't. But Hootie Russo told me one thing, though, that was very true. And I'm going to end it on this video right here. I interviewed Hootie, and this is how he ended this. What do you think of all these wars all this fighting going on between everybody?
I got serious problems in the streets. I'm not worried about any. I don't pay attention to the stuff going on YouTube.
When you say you have serious problems, when you say you have serious problems in the street, what do you mean by that?
Well, I got beefs with guys that I tell stories about that are still in Cosa Nostra. I got beefs with drug dealers that I mentioned in my stories. These guys, you don't want to be mentioned, don't want to be talked about. And the guys that I don't hear from or get messages from, because I get messages all the time. And the ones that I don't hear from are the ones you got to worry about. You think you just can talk about these guys and walk around the neighborhood like it's okay? Listen, I tell everybody, you may think the life is dead, but the people that involved in it and were involved in it aren't dead. They're walking the streets.
So do you see something happening here pretty soon where something bad's going to happen because of all this shit?
It's terrible.
I seen that. I remember watching that shit.
Yeah. And he's saying that someday one of these guys that got ratted on are going to do something. The fact that someone hasn't done anything yet is incredible, but a lot of these guys are owned by the FBI, and if you hurt them, you're hurting federal property.
Yeah, and then you're fucked. I mean,
you're fucked.
No, I mean, I remember watching that, and I even remember him in my interviews mentioning people that were still on the street and active, and I'm like, he's like, oh fuck, well, I shouldn't have probably said that, and he just kept going on, but like, he's right. I mean, he's probably got beefs in the street too that,
and you never know, dude. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know when that guy, a relative of that guy, Somebody you put away in prison, and believe me, dude, something's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's not going to be too far off because there's so many of these guys, so many of these informants right now coming into the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, I remember when I first started, there was like 3 or 4. Now there's like 30.
Yeah, it's going to keep growing too. I mean,
because this is where they know they can come and make some money.
Yeah, it is. I
mean, they love this fighting stuff. They love fighting with me. They line up for it. You know, I get death threats. I get email death threats all the time. I just got one. I got one where a guy told me to come to Philadelphia so they can kill me.
Jeez.
You know, and then they'll say to me, "Oh, you're in Texas. You're in a fortress." I am in a fortress. If you come here, you will not leave Texas. It's that simple. But, you know, if I was in New York, I would think twice. I would have to look over my shoulder.
Yeah, your channel is probably popular over there with a lot of the people because they were from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I'm hoping it gets more popular. But listen, I just wanted to show you that. I just wanted to give you some history, just so when you go into this, you have an idea what we talked about. My advice to you would be before you interview anybody, check them out good.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. And, you know, like I said, you know, before, I just kind of keep an open mind about everything. And, you know, I'm glad that, you know, you were able to, you know, because, you know, from my channel to your channel, you know, it's different, you know, because like you said, you're at the point where you don't want to do interviews with any, you know, informants and stuff. And whereas
I was at your point at one time where I did.
Right. Yeah. And, you know,
So,
and now like you're, you know, like how you've changed and now you're just doing it with people that aren't. And, you know, so for me, from my mindset to your mindset, I think it was good to, you know, have this back and forth, you know, because even though if we don't agree on everything, I think, like you said, it makes for a good video for people that are listening because, like you said, if we're just agreeing on everything, I mean, people probably won't like it, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's more interesting. And, you know, you told me stuff and I told you stuff, especially, you know, about
you're from a totally different generation. Dude, you're almost the same age as my granddaughter.
Damn.
so you know, and so that just tells you something right there. It's different generations.
Yeah.
You got to remember when you got a lot of older guys that are in their 50s and stuff taking advantage of younger guys like you by telling you mistruths.
Yeah, and then, you know, that's a lot of the comments that I get, you know, from certain guys that I have on, and for me, it's just like I said, just kind of reporting the story. You know, I wasn't there for any of this shit, you know. So, like you said, I need, you know, do my research and stuff. Like what I did with the documentary, I did my best on doing the research and stuff that I could. So, you know, if everyone wants to check it out, like Lee said, you'll put
you started out good with Scarfa because you put out that he was an informant.
Right. Yeah, he was a government informant.
And then when I talked to you about Larry Mazza, you came back with a good answer. You said, well, he was working with a guy that was ratting on everybody.
Right.
You know, so I can't really say, I don't know much about Larry Mazza, but I never really gave that much thought until you mentioned it to me.
Yeah,
so maybe I should think a little bit differently about, I'm not sure who else Larry Mazza ratted on or anything like that.
Right.
But, you know, but that was a good point by you.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad.
You're a young guy. You just gave me a point that not many people ever given to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, once you do so many interviews and talk to these guys, I suppose you learn more and you can kind of get a better understanding and shit from it. That's what I've learned. And, you know, when I do research on a guy, I watch all their interviews as much as I can. So that's why I ran into Franks and Anthony DeLuca that you've had on your show. And, you know,
those are good guys. There's nobody that can come out and say that DiMatteo or DeLuca ratted on anybody.
No,
you
Frank
know,
had an opportunity.
Same with Anthony Raimondi, whether you like Anthony Raimondi or not, his problem is stolen valor. But if you like it, no one can say Anthony Raimondi ever ratted on anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's another guy. You know, there are just guys in this that Danny Trio. One thing we do know about Danny Trio, he did do some heavy time.
Yeah, he did 18, 20 years or something.
Well, it's different than that, but he still did heavy time.
Yeah. Chickatelli, he did his time. Tommy Stiggs.
Chicky and I are friends, and Chicky has never informed. You know, there'll be people out there that say he did. There's no evidence he did.
No.
You got to say it's easy to say someone informed. If you can't prove it, then you can't prove it.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I talk to Chicky every day, just about.
Yeah, me too. Well, not every day, but once a month or two we talk, and he's been on my show a few times. I got some interviews I'll be posting with him here soon because I got a bunch. Shit, I got like 30 interviews. You know what I mean? That I just post one a week, and let them come out like that. But with this documentary, I'll be putting a lot of stuff out. So like Lee said, guys, if you guys want to check my channel out, it'll be in the video description.
Yep.
Subscribe, check it out.
I'll
The
put it out
documentary.
there. I'll premiere this. I'm going to put this up on Premiere tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I really enjoyed this. I think once people really get into this, they're going to really enjoy it. See, whenever you do interviews, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know squat about you.
Yeah,
I had
same
no
here.
idea what I was going to get, and you probably thought the same with me.
Yeah, I mean, because I knew that we might have bumped heads a little bit about the whole interviews who I've had on and well, I suppose I've interviewed people that you've had on, but just our different perspectives. I knew
what it comes down to, dude. It's none of my business who you interview.
Right. Yeah.
I might disagree with who you interview, or you might disagree with who I interview. But in the end, it's our shows. We do what we want.
Yeah, that's true. And
when we do what we want, though, we have to make sure, is it going to affect us as a business? Because that's what we are. We're a business.
Yeah.
You're trying to grow your business. I'm trying to grow my business.
Yeah, and I hope that the people that we brought you talked about today. I know that you said were informants and might have had a past and are doing all this crazy stuff that you're showing me. But any of them, I didn't talk bad about them. You know what I mean? I didn't bash them. So
No. You talk to Gene Barillo. I know exactly what he's going to say. Me and Lee got along great, and then all of a sudden, we didn't. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And it just happens. It just happens. There's nothing I can say to change their mind about me. There's guys that will tell you that I'm the worst piece of shit on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing I could do to change that either.
Yeah. No.
But I enjoyed this interview, my man.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm glad we got to do it. I appreciate it, Lee.
Okay. I'm going to end this. You can hang around until
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, people, just please sub. If you haven't subbed to my channel, please sub. Like the video and watch it all. And underneath this, I'll have information for Invest in Yourself podcast. And you can go check out his stuff and see if you like it. And thanks a lot, everybody.